Hello, welcome back to my second tutorial. Still in Logic 9, I haven't upgraded to X yet, but don't think I will for some time. I might not even do it at all. Today I've been requested to do a tutorial on sub bass. It's a thing that a lot of people have difficulty with. So I thought I'd quickly do a few different types of sub and show you how I'd go about it. I'd just like to clarify that although I'm in Logic, it's these kind of techniques will apply to any kind of workstation. So if you're a Cubase, Reason, whatever user, then you might still get some out of this. I don't know. Yeah, so sub bass is pretty important for the kind of music I'm making anyway. It's something you feel more than you hear, to be honest. It can be quite subtle on smaller speakers like your car speakers or your computer speakers, but when it's not there you really notice. If you would take it out of a lot of tracks, it would just be completely kill the track and it's got no weight at all. Of course, if you're on a big system like in a decent club or something, then sub bass is everything. It's like the lead instrument, which is why people love it so much for kind of, well, the bass music culture. That's what it's about, isn't it? So what I've got here is a little breakbeat loop of drums I've just quickly stuck together, and a little chord sequence. So just so we've got something to work with, so we've got some context. I know it's corny as hell, like, but yeah. So sub bass then, let's get to it. Using the ES2 again. This is Logic's kind of standard synth, like multi-purpose thing. But as I said before, these kind of techniques will apply to almost any like soft synth. So you could do all this in Massive or Albino or any other like popular ones, pretty much, as long as it's like a kind of one that's made for computer music rather than a copy of a mini Moog or something. So what I've got here is just a sine wave. It's sent down 2 octaves, a little bit of a slow attack on the volume envelope, and a tiny bit of distortion, just a little bit there, and that's literally it. That is all you need. This is for a basic one anyway. This will I don't know if you can hear that. You might need to turn your speakers up a bit, but just playing on my keyboard. Right, I'm getting a bit of latency there, so it's going to sound naff, but I'll get the kind of idea. It's just super simple. Right, but let's make that a little bit more interesting. Since we've got a kind of breakbeaty kind of thing here with the old school breaks and that, if you're interested, by the way, I'll show you how I put them drums together at the end. Let's go for an old school kind of sub bass. So I've already put this together here, but I'll explain it a bit better. Get rid of that. In the ES2 again, it's pretty much that same patch, but what I've done here is added a pitch envelope, on a short decay envelope here. So what that's doing is it's raising the pitch of every note I play and bringing it down immediately every time I press a key, and it adds a real punch to your kind of sub. I've also added a bit of release on the volume envelope, and this is an effect that's quite often achieved with an 808 kick drum sample, and that's pitched around and you kind of tune it to the key of your track. But I kind of prefer to make my own from scratch because it gives you a bit more freedom. So that's what that sounds like. So you get some quite cool effects with that. excuse the horribly out of timeness, because as I said, I'm getting some quite bad latency. Tell you what, I'll draw in some notes, because then we won't get any, and it won't sound horrible. Right, so what I was going to say before was it's quite important that's set to mono here, because if you have it on the poly setting when you've got this kind of long release, even if you don't play two notes at once, they'll still be, the release will overlap with your next notes, and you'll get like some interference with them, and it'll make quite a mess, to be honest. So definitely keep it on mono, because you don't really want to be playing chords in your sub bass. So we've got that nice kind of old school punchy one now. But anyway, speaking of just copy that MIDI region and simplify it. Speaking of a bit of interference, that can sometimes be quite a good thing, to be honest. So I've got this patch here that I've made a phasing sub. I'll just simplify this, because we don't want anything too complicated on this. The good thing about the kind of punchy old school, it's like kind of an old school jungle type thing, it's quite good for going across a few octaves, because it still sounds nice higher up, whereas like with the simple one I showed you first, it would just kind of sound a bit kind of annoying and obnoxious, if you know what I mean. So this one, this is actually two sine waves this time. So because of the nature of the ES2, there's a sine wave there on oscillator 1, but it's down here on oscillator 2, which is a bit unusual, but it doesn't really make much difference. So I've got them both on 2 octaves down again, but this time I've detuned it by, this is 50 cents flat, and this is 50 cents sharp. So they're kind of half a semitone either side of the pitch you're actually looking for. But the result is you get this interference where the sine waves kind of cancel each other out, and you get this kind of wobbling effect, which isn't kind of quantized with your tempo or anything, but normally you can get away with it still sounding good. And the interesting thing is, the higher the notes you play, the faster the oscillations are, and it just gives a lot more movement and interest to your music. This one, instead of being set to monophonic, it's on legato and a little bit of glide, and what that does is the way that you would go about doing that is kind of different in every synth, but it's sometimes called like portamento, or I can't remember what it's called in Massive, I don't know. But yeah, I'm sure you'll be familiar with it if you've played with these kind of synths very much. It's basically so that if I hold down a key and press another key on my keyboard, or write the equivalent in the piano roll, get a little glide up to the second note without having to take my finger off the first one, which is, it just makes programming them a lot easier, these kind of bass lines. Right, so say you've already got your bass line and you want to just send that back to stereo. You want to just reinforce it with some sub bass, which is what I do if I'm putting any kind of mid bass in. So I've made this really naff kind of mid-range bass, which is yeah, it's a bit terrible, but what I'd do if I was putting this in the track is I have a bus set up for all my basses, And this has an EQ on it, which takes out the sub bass, which is kind of your 100 Hz and below, which is where the real weight is. Around like 50 to 100 is where your kind of keys from about D sharp to A come in the kind of the really nice octave for sub bass stuff, which I'm playing in. So we've got this bass line. Now that I've taken that bottom end out, you can hear that it's just lost all its weight. So what I'm going to do is I'll go back to my simple sub and just drop that straight in. I'll just have to check it's the right octave. I don't think it is. Let's bring it up one. There we go. The other thing I might do here is, because this has kind of got a bit of movement in this mid bass, I'd maybe just change these to be kind of playing one every beat rather than just these static notes. What could maybe work is the phasing sub with that, which is it's not going to be perfect, as in it's not going to go in line with the movement in the mid bass, but it'll add a little bit of movement overall and be kind of a bit interesting. But you kind of want to be careful doing things like that because it can get a bit messy. And yeah, that's about all I've got on sub bass. It's really super simple, super simple. Tell you what, if you want to know how to do it in something else, let's show something that some people might be more familiar with if you're not a Logic user. Let's see. Your instruments. Let's make one in Massive. If it's going to load. Man, I never use this, so I'm going to say, oh, there we go, sine. So I've just got a plain sine wave here. Let's drop it down 2 octaves. So that's 24 decibels, semitones. Bit of a nasty click there. Let's put a bit more attack on the volume envelope. Get the sustain up. And then we want that little bit of distortion that just really adds to it. I'll do. Ooh, I only did a tiny bit of this. So there's kind of my equivalent sub in Massive if you're interested. So really super simple stuff. Right, the next thing to consider is so I'll show you this with the punchy sub because I like that one. Just hide the rest. A lot of people, I tend not to too much because I've used the distortion built into the instrument. A lot of people will put a compressor on the subs for different reasons. If it's this kind of sub, it would be really helpful to kind of shape the transients coming in, add a nice punch to it. But I'm going to need to tweak these settings a bit to get that. I don't really feel it's that necessary because it's already pretty punchy. What a lot of people do with their compressor though is kind of use it just to add a bit of distortion and absolutely slam the thing. You can hear it getting really gritty. The more kind of distortion and compression you add in this way, the less weight you get. So like a pure sine wave is like the kind of heaviest sub you can get, but sometimes they don't really reproduce well on a lot of systems, so it's good to have a little bit, but I wouldn't normally have this much, a lot of people might do. What I would do, however, is I'd take a compressor and sidechain it to my kicks, so my bass drum, and I've got them already sent to a bus here, so if I just, there it is, solo that. what that does is just whenever there's a bass drum, it as you can see, it's lowering the volume on my sub, and it just keeps your mix a bit tidier, cleaner, and allows a lot more room for your bottom end. So hopefully, if you've got a decent kind of monitoring system on your whatever you're listening on, then you can hear how much like weight I've added to this little loop I've got going. If not, then that's probably hit the nail on the head as why you're struggling with sub bass. It's because you can't hear it. You need a decent kind of range on your headphones or speakers or whatever to really hear the notes of it. So but then it can still add a lot to a track that's not played on those speakers, because it it kind of adds the feel of weight to something, even if you can't really make out the notes that are happening in the sub. Yeah, that's about all I've got. If you're interested in how I've done these drums, then I've got some old school jungle breaks. What were they? One called Fool's Gold and one called Apache. Just quickly put them together, sped this Apache up, filled with it, stuck a noise gate on to get it a bit more punchy. Then I've chopped up a Fool's Gold break, got a high pitched kick drum, a low pitch one, and then a few snares from it, and then a pitch down snare again, some weight, and then hi-hats from it, and then this is just from a sample pack, this shaker. So it's just a MIDI. But yeah, it's not really the kind of beat I normally make, but it definitely fits with this kind of sub bass, I think. Alright, thanks for watching. I hope one or two of you can take something away from that, and that it made sense at least a little bit. Right, I'm out of here. See you later.